is still just a sight on a dryer, isn't it? Hello, everyone. Welcome to After Action Report here on the Call to Action podcast channel, your numbers recap show for all Toronto matches to keep you caught up on all the action. I'm your host, Megs, and today I'm going to be breaking down all the matches from this last week. And just like we saw in the previous week, Swag and Corruption having a majority of the matches, this was a big week for Dungeon, having 2 out of 3 of the matches featuring members from their squad. And speaking of the tournaments that are going on, I've been noticing a lot of discussion about the difficulty of round 1. So I decided to do a little bit of research into what we've been seeing as the average number of points scored in round 1 from last year's tournament, what we saw so far at the beginning of this year, and what we've seen so far in this tournament. So for the 2020 tournament, so season 7, round 1, or through the tournament, in round 1, we saw 7.1 average points, and out of the 35 matches that we had, there were 23 perfect rounds. So about 33% of the matches or the scores involved perfect rounds in round 1. If we're looking at the 21 or season 8, up until the tournament, round 1 average was about the same, 7.1, with 45 matches and 35 perfect rounds. So we actually saw an increase. 39% of the matches or the scores involved perfect round ones or perfect rounds plus the bonus. So both of those are included in these calculations. So 33 from last year's tournament, 39% beginning of this season. Now, if we get into what we've seen so far in the tournament as a whole, so for this year, of the 10 matches that we have seen so far in the tournament, we have seen an average of 6.7 points inside of round 1. So a slight decrease, but less than a point difference. But we've only seen 4 perfect rounds. So 20% of the scores in round 1 of the tournament matches so far this year have been perfect rounds. This also includes the title match between Merle and Irwin. So that is included in there. But still, we're seeing less than a 1% change in the average round 1, but over 10% change in the overall perfect rounds seen so far. So keep those in mind as we go along in the matches from this week, and I'll be keeping an eye on these numbers as we move in all throughout the tournament. But without further ado, let's take a look at what we're going to be analyzing this week. This week we saw 2 singles round 1 matches. First one was between Lon Harris and King Kong. Second one was Dan Murrell versus Jessica Sloth. And our final match of the week was the IG semifinal tournament match with Robert Parker going up against Ethan Irwin. So to start off the week, we jumped back over into the Cantina with a round 1 tournament between the delinquent Lon Harris against King Khan, one of the rookie sensations from the Finstock Exchange. Coming in and out of round 1, we see that they are tied at 6. Again, following along with the numbers, neither of them being able to get a perfect round. Moving over into round 2, because Lon is the higher ranked competitor, he decides to defer to King, who spins away from Black Cinema and ends up spinning opponent's choice and is given the 1970s, where King Khan is able to sweep this round for 8 out of 8 points. Now, no disparaging against King Khan or the choice to give him 70s. Something to note, however, of the 4 questions inside of this round, all 4 of them were asking about movies that related to a director, actor, or actress slice and filmography inside of the MTS that is currently being used. Just something to think about. We move over to Lon Harris's spin, who he decides to take mystery films on his first spin, and he's able to come away with 7 out of 8 points, checking out a multiple choice once, but not giving away any steals. So King Khan is able to gain 1 point to now be up by 1 point, 14-13 going into the third and final round. Where we see it is a back and forth here initially. Lon has to hit his 2-pointer in directors to bounce it back over to King Khan, who hits his 2-pointer in sports. Lon Harris hits a 3-pointer in Steven Spielberg. However, King Khan misses his 3-pointer in Black Cinema as well as a 5-pointer in Will Smith, which does give Lon Harris the win with a final score of 18-16. where Lon Harris is able to answer 12 of 14 questions for 86% accuracy, scored 82% of 22 available points, and King Khan answered 11 of 15 questions for 73% accuracy and scored 59% of 27 available points. So we see that those 3-point and 5-point misses by Khan were the big drops inside of his potential points earned in this match, and also was the big reason why, or the reason why, Lon Harris did not have to answer his 5-pointer to win this match. So they were neck and neck, very close in rounds 1 and 2. That round 3 was the big equalizer, which is able to give Lon Harris the win, and we see one of the Finstock Exchange rookies knocked out early here in this round 1. But we're not done yet. Let's move into our next round 1 match. Something we have not seen for a while, we see Dangerous Dan Murrell in a round 1 of a tournament going up against another rookie, Jessica the Sleeper Sloth. Here in round 1, we see that they are tied at 6. So 2 things of note to say here in round 1, we see that Jessica does have to use all 3 of her JTEs to still secure these 6 points. And Dan Murrell has been in this position before, only getting 6 points in round 1. More on that later. Moving into round 2, we see that Dan, being the higher ranked competitor, defers to Jessica, who decides to take Y8 adaptations on her first spin. She's able to come away with 4 out of 8 available points. She checks down the multiple choice once, misses that question, as well as the subsequent 2-point question, which are both stolen by Dan Murrell for a total of 3 points. We go over to Dan Murrell, who spins opponent's choice and is given romantic comedies. Once again, seeing some similarities here, let me take you back to when Dan Murrell faced Andrew Guy. He also only got 6 points in round 1 during that match and was given romance on opponent's choice in that match. But I believe the similarities stop there. Let's see how this plays out. We see that Murrell is able to come away with 6 out of 8 available points, checking down a multiple choice once, misses that question, but it is not able to be stolen by Jessica. So we see that Dan Murrell gains 5 points in this round to now be up by 5, 15-10, going into the third and final round, where we see that Jessica hits a 2-pointer in Scores and Soundtracks, but misses a 3-pointer in Julia Roberts and a 5-pointer in Remakes and Reboots, which does give Dan Murrell the win via TKO with a final score of 15-12, where Dan Murrell answered 11 of 14 questions for 79% accuracy, scored 75% of 20 available points, and Jessica Sloth answered 9 of 16 questions for 56% accuracy and scored 43% of 28 available points. We see a combination of some nerves and inexperience come into play here for Jessica inside of this game that caused some problems there in gameplay and didn't give her many options inside of round 2 and 3 when she did not have any repeats at her disposal. But this is a great learning experience for her as she moves into hopefully getting to see her next season. And we do see that Dan Murrell is able to get past this first round of the tournament into his next opponent, which will be Lon Harris from the previous match in this week. So looking forward to seeing how that match plays out later on in this season. Moving into our third and final match of the week, we saw the semifinal, first one of the IG tournament, which saw Robert the Spider Parker going up against new IG sensation Ethan Big Time Irwin. Coming out of round 1, we do see that Parker is up by 2, 8-6. Neither of them getting perfect rounds, but Parker is able to be up, with which he decides to defer to Ethan, where Ethan spins away from Transformers, ends up spinning opponent's choice, and is given Wizarding World, where he's able to come away with 3 out of 10 available points. He checks down the multiple choice on 4 out of the 5 questions, misses 3 of them, and all 3 of them are stolen by Parker for a total of 3 points worth of steals. Looking at our Parker spin, he decides to take fantasy sci-fi on his first spin, He's able to come away with 6 out of 10 available points, checking out a multiple choice twice, missing both of those questions, but neither of them are able to be stolen by Erwin. So we see that Parker decides to stick with a maybe less than favorable spin in lieu of maybe trying not to get something else. However, due to the performance here in this category, it does not afford him the opportunity to get a KO situation. However, he is still up ahead by a significant amount going into the third and final round. So we see that Parker is able to gain 6 points with the steals and his points there in the second round, which puts him now up by 8 points, 17-9. Where we see that Erwin misses his 2-pointer in Wizarding World. Wizarding World hits again for him. He does hit his 3-pointer in Batman, however, he does miss a 5-pointer in DC, which does give Parker the win via TKO with a final score of 17-12, where Robert Parker answered 14 of 18 questions for 78% accuracy, scored 71% of 24 available points. Ethan Erwin answered 9 of 20 questions for 45% accuracy, scored 36% of 33 available points. While we see that Parker is able to get a fairly easy TKO here, it is not the perfect situation, seeing that he does score the least accurate game inside of his career. Hindsight 2020, if he had gone for something a little more in his wheelhouse on a second spin, we may have very easily seen a KO situation in this match. But again, hindsight's 2020. He made the decision in that moment and stuck with what he thought he could get a decent amount of points in, and he's still able to come away with the TKO win. And for someone who was just kind of giving it a try, I think we can pretty honestly say that Ethan Erwin is legitimately a 3-division player. Should he decide to apply next season to going into IG, watch out. He is a force to be reckoned with in all 3 divisions, to be sure, and not to be underestimated. So that does it for this week's episode. I'll be right back here every Monday, 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern. You can find socials for myself as well as the Call to Action podcast down in the description of this episode. Please leave comments on this video. Find me on social media to ask questions. I love discussing stats with you guys and would love to know what you guys thought of the matches from this week and anything that you've been curious about that were brought up by the discussion of these matches. Be sure to check out other content on this channel as well as Call Live and No Chill. Hit the notification bell so you'll be alerted every time that we go live or drop a new video. Also, check us out over on Twitch over on Wednesdays. Nat and Dylan talk about all sorts of things, often not Schmoedown related. So be sure to check that out. Again, as always, make sure that you have hit like, leave a comment, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Until next time, for the whole Call to Action team, I'm Megs. This has been After Action Report, signing off.